This is Level Up. Here we discuss some of the most influential video games in history. We take a look at story, gameplay, design, and finally, our rankings. So get your Doritos, Mountain Dew, and controller. It's time to press start. Welcome back everyone to Level Up. This is our side quest series to what we normally do around here. I am joined today with my co-host Frank.
Hey guys.
And John is our guest today.
Hey.
We usually go in depth to a specific video game, and that video game today is going to be Crackdown, since it's being Crackdown 3 is supposed to be announced at E3, but I guess it got delayed again. So, Frank, can you go describe what we're going to do today?
Yeah, so we're talking Crackdown. Came out on the Xbox 360 on February 20th in 2007, the good old days. Came out from Microsoft Studios and World Time Worlds. It's a great game. I mean, it's one of them I loved. It was free for the Xbox 360 about 2 years ago, so a lot of people have it there. I remember buying it new because it was just like supposed to be like a fun Grand Theft Auto, which I think boils down to what it is.
Yes.
Fun Grand Theft Auto. Jonathan, you've played it quite a bit, right?
Yeah. I loved it. I played number 1 and 2, but of course we're just talking about number 1 right now. Yeah. But I liked how open the game was. It was I don't know how you say it, open map game or whatever.
Yeah.
But it had a lot of the same feel as Grand Theft Auto, and it came out just after Grand Theft Auto was the huge, series for a while. So it was. I think a lot of people were kind of looking for that kind of vibe, but it had the same kind of vibe, but it was more action, superhero based, not trying to be a criminal and shooting hookers in the street kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
We're gonna save hookers.
Yeah.
We're going to save hookers in this one.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Are you ready for level 1?
I'm ready for it.
All right, you ready? Let's press start. Level 1. Story-wise, all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and read off a little bit of the story here. Okay, takes place in Pacific City, where the city is controlled by 3 gangs or crime syndicates. The Los Muertos, which means the dead ones in Spanish. They're a Central American gang. The Volk, which is Russian for wolf. They're a Russian gang. And the Shaigen Corporation, they were like a legit corporation and they just straight up went evil. They're from East Asia. Crime's gotten too bad for the peacekeepers, which is like their cops. So they recruit the agency to come in, and they have something called the agents, and they're like cybernetic, bionic, awesome super soldiers, Captain America, but like with a gun.
Or Cyborg.
Cyborg. You know what? Universal Soldiers. This is a bunch of Dolph Lundgrens running around.
That's hot.
So we got Dolph Lundgrens. That's hot. Because he's got to be naked in a tub to keep cool.
Right.
But yeah. You kill generals and then the kingpin of each gang, and then finally you have to stop a riot from the gang. And one thing I really like is we'll get into gameplay on that. And so it's real open. It's basically using the deck of cards gameplay to where it'll give you, these are your bosses, go out into the open world to take them down. And then at the end, so spoiler alert, but it is a big part of the story. At the end, you find out that you cleared out Pacific City of the gangs, but you find out the director, who's been a voice talking to you, the narrator of the game, he tells you that we actually have been funding and have been supporting the gangs so that there was a need for the agency, and that now that the agency has taken over, you guys are the top dogs of basically the new gang, and that they're going to be replicating this throughout the cities, and it's world domination time. So fun, you're the bad guy. So that's basically the story. Anybody want to add anything about the story? Anything you thought story-wise is a good part of it?
No, nothing to add. There was a professor. Was there like a professor that started this, or?
That's Pokemon. He gives you Pikachu and Bulbasaur.
Damn wrong game.
No, there is a. You're basically set out, I think, right away by the director. And I think that's just his name is just the director. It's really cool voiceover work. I should know his name.
I like the story when I played it, I know for sure. But looking back now, kind of thinking about it, it seemed like it was just it was a good game. I really liked the game. It seems like it was kind of a weak storyline.
Yeah.
It was pretty repetitive with the fact that you got three major cities. You got the deck of cards. You go through layers or levels to get to the top boss, and then you just repeat that in the next city and the next city, and then.
That, and I think a lot of that is the kind of game it is it's the deck of cards game where you're left to your own devices, which makes the game a lot of fun. What's funny is I think, so it gives you this wide open world and a very open story, and it's almost like you're creating the story between, because it's kind of like with Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, where your relationship with how you tackle each boss almost creates a story. So it's like you can imagine your guy at the bar with other agents later on be like, oh yeah, when I took out Tony of the Los Muertos, man, I had to throw a bunch of grenades in there. So it's kind of funny that you're almost creating a relationship with how you killed each boss, if that makes sense.
And I remember, I think it was the Shai Jen, like you're talking about how you attack the situation. And it also depends on what skills you develop more so than others.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that gameplay because.
Oh yeah. Well, I.
But no. Go. I'm sorry. Keep going. Sorry.
Well, I don't know if it was me or you. I remember watching you play too. But instead of fighting your way through the tower to get to the very top.
Yeah.
Okay, you're probably going to talk about that. But yeah, you could literally jump or climb your way to the top of the building.
If you get enough agility orbs to level your guy up, to just be able to jump. To be super high jumping, you can actually scale the outside of the building.
Yeah.
Very, very tricky because it's almost by accident you can do this.
Yeah.
And then you can just get to the final kingpin without touching any of his guards.
Yeah.
And then you fight, and he's like the biggest boss in the game. It's funny, yeah. That's one thing story wise. So the game leaves it really open to where you can choose any. You can go right for the Shai Jen or right for Volk. It definitely feels like so there is a little bit of a difficulty curve, so you technically should go Los Muertos, Volk, and then Shai Jen. And I'm probably saying Shai Jen wrong, but
if you want to skip around, all you really got to do is go play. Go out to the middle wherever and start killing whatever it takes to get those orbs, like you're saying. Level up what skills you think you need, and then you could.
So those orbs, so a big part of the game is leveling up your agent. And you get to go from killing people, killing generals and kingpins and just average dudes. Yeah. And the agility orbs you get from collecting them on top of buildings, so you're encouraged to scale buildings. And there's cool, like when you get more driving orbs and you actually level up your driving, the agency vehicles, when you get them, they actually level up too. Remember that?
Yeah,
that's the vehicle that transforms into awesomeness. Yeah, what do you think story-wise, Squeaks?
Story-wise, not very strong, except for that's a cool twist at the end, so I'll give it credit for that.
Yeah.
Are we talking about like gameplay too, right?
No, well, right now we're trying to stick to story.
Just stick with
it's
story.
hard because this is such a gameplay kind of game. It's not meant to be a story.
Yes. And that's probably why it's just weak, but it gets overlooked because of the gameplay.
Yeah.
But just story, cool twist, but not. It's just basic.
I did like
it's like we didn't need it though. But,
in the story aspect, with some games you have to interact with another character or something like that to get any feed on the story. But the fact that this one had a full-time narrator over your shoulder, he would always just be like reminding you, oh, this is what's going on with Los Muertos, and oh, watch out over here.
That was kind of cool too. When you did kill somebody, he was like, that guy was in charge of the cocaine smuggling, and this is his. And they showed like
what impact that did,
security footage, of him like making a deal and stuff. That was kind of cool. So you got a piece of the world that you were in.
Yeah, so it was a little prop for the storyline.
How about character development? Did you feel like there was good character development in there? No, like, there's not a lot of character to develop. Yeah. Literally, physical attributes is the only thing that do. Yeah. You feel actually very shallow. You have zero depth character-wise, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's that tiny bit of development in the narrator, which is, oh, he's actually a bad guy this whole time.
Yeah, that's at the very end. So you really can't give it 100% credit. It's a cool twist.
Yeah.
What about the threat from the villains? I thought that was actually pretty good. I felt like I was actually saving this city, Pacific City, from gangs.
That's true. Yeah, they did a good job of that, and I like that it had a very direct impact with what level you were at. Where if you tried to rush yourself too much and jump in the middle of a gang fight you weren't ready for, they could kill you. I mean, you get overwhelmed. But if you go, like I was saying, go out and level yourself independently, you can get ahead of where they're at and take them up faster. But
I thought it was fine because there's a lot of enemies on the grounds and buildings and streets, and that's neat and all. You can run past whatever you need to, but I thought the threat level was okay. It was cool.
Did you feel like you were needed to take out that villain threat? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you weren't there, Pacific City would tear it apart. So therefore, you were truly
you're the only person there anyway.
Yeah.
Doing this secret agents, but there's only one agent really there. Yeah. So.
So one thing too that I really like. So the way it works is after you take out the generals and the kingpin, then they're like the last ditch effort from each mob or each gang is that there's the riot. And at that moment, I really feel like I need to save this city from this riot because now they have no leader, so they're just nuts. So I think story-wise, that was a good progression in each gang's movement. Because normally you would think like, oh, the end of the gang is that their kingpin is the really hard boss to kill. No, it's the kingpin's the last thing holding them at bay or in control.
Yeah.
So then as soon as you kill the Kingpin, the actual last boss is nuts. And I remember very well the Los Muertos one where they got those cars and they're like lined up on the side of the road just like going through you.
Yeah.
And they're like darting cars at you and stuff like that. And they were pretty crazy. And then I think it was like the Shy Jin had rocket launchers that were just like bah, 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 bah,
yeah. Getting launched off that skyscraper several times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The plot again real open ended, so there wasn't really much plot for the game. I mean, it was just take these guys out, enjoy the world, you know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it was consistent in the fact that it was kind of just the same thing. You already knew the structure, you knew what to do, so you just continue. And you do have the narrator in your ear, you know, telling you, updating you on what's going on or whatever. But yeah, it was kind of not a lot of plot to it.
Yeah, it was a little unfortunate. But
it's kind of a nice thing because it was fun because you didn't have to stay on a specific path. It wasn't like, you know, it was an open play game, so you go out there and try out what you want.
Story,
yeah,
that's one thing, and it's part of the gameplay, but it's also part of the story because you're constantly leveling yourself up and you're becoming stronger, so you can face bigger bosses.
Mm-hmm.
You truly feel like and it's part of the arts too. So we'll be touching back on it a lot in this review. But you actually more so than so it's easy to compare this game to two different games in my opinion. Grand Theft Auto, first and foremost, because it's the most popular. Second, Saints Row.
Mm-hmm.
Saints Row, if you're not familiar with that, is kind of like doesn't take itself seriously at all version of Grand Theft Auto.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Theft Auto sometimes takes itself too seriously, or is satirical on video gaming or people who play their video games, but is deaf at that sometimes, so you don't really notice it. So I think this does a really good balance of you just want to go out and have fun. So this game more so than those other games, you feel like a superhero.
Yeah.
Now, correction on the newest Saints Row. Have you guys ever played this new Saints Row?
Yeah, they're bad.
You don't like Saints Row at all?
I played 1, 2, and 3, and then I couldn't do the rest.
The newest Saints Row, the one right before you go to hell, you are legit. Yeah, exactly. You actually does take over hell.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But before then, you're in a simulation that the aliens put you in.
Yeah, that's right.
And you are legit a superhero. You actually get superhero abilities. They're just
cranked it all the way up.
It's funny because that reminds me of the early DJ morning. You know, turn the knob off and tear it off. That's exactly what they did. They turned the knob up and tore it off. You're just going full crazy.
That's crazy.
Any other points story-wise you guys want to throw in?
Since you were comparing it to those games, I want to mention it's a lot like Mercenaries as well.
Oh yeah, well the deck of cards.
Yeah,
idea, yeah.
And it's still open map, but you just don't have the leveling up like Crackdown does.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But yeah, I think it was an interesting story. It kept the game moving as much as it had to, but it wasn't. I wouldn't play it for the story. It was all the type of gameplay that really carried the game, I think.
Story-wise, honestly, once you've beaten it once and you kind of understand how... You could technically beat that game in 2 hours.
Yeah.
If you were to just go straight for Generals and Kingpin, and you knew, okay, he's always hiding in this room over here.
Yeah.
You know, I've done that in the past where I'm I just want to do a quick clear, and it's 2 hours and you're done. All right, so our first level, we're at the end of the level, guys. We're going to jump and get the top of that flag. Our first level, how many points are you going to give it to? Squeeze?
Is that a 20?
Out of 20, sorry.
10.
I'm going to give it 10 out of 20. There's actually 20 out of 20 too. I'm giving it 10 out of 20 as well. John, what do you think?
Probably do 7.
7? Even
wow.
lower.
Yeah. I mean,
right.
if we're talking specifically only story, then yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I think we're going to level 2. Level it up, guys. And we're going into level 2. That's gameplay. So I'm just going to run down real quick. It's a third-person shooter where you level up your agent. You become strong enough to attack bigger kingpins. It's an open-world sandbox. You do what you want, basically. There are side activities. You can do races, and you can pick up orbs to increase your agility. It's up to you to choose who to attack and how to attack them. You can just try to skip their bodyguards. You can use rocket launchers. You can do whatever you want. There are guns, and you can actually melee people too. Everything's upgraded through these orbs that you get from killing people or from picking them up. You're no part of the city. This is really unique to this game, and the other ones that we've talked about comparing it to don't have this part. You are not gated at all. This, as far as I can tell, you're not gated at all. Is that correct?
And there are three or four islands, so you can't go out and swim. Yeah, there's the HUD that's underwater.
Oh, you're right.
From the map, but yeah, so you can't swim endlessly. Eventually, it stops you and you have to come back. But other than that, you can go anywhere on the.
But you can go to any one of those 3 islands right away.
Yeah.
Okay. Which normally, like for Grand Theft Auto, there's like, oh, there's road work on this one where you happen to not be able to go to this area.
Yeah.
I think all of them have that. Maybe I'm trying to think 5 might not, but I think all of them have that. You can use fast travel. The fast travel supply points. Most games have that now. One of the really cool gameplay features is as you slowly dig deeper into a gang and take out more of their generals, the game becomes more aggressive to where you'll just be like, in the beginning before you even attack a gang, you can be walking by and slowly gain some aggression from them until eventually they'll attack you. Mm-hmm. But as you take out a couple generals, they see you, they start popping off. They'll stop their cars and start shooting at you. And
the fact that you effectively tripled that portion of their ability when
changes,
you take out.
Yeah, it changes the gameplay. So if you take out like their firearms specialists, now they're using handguns.
Yeah.
Something like that. I'm not necessarily saying that's exactly one of them, but that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else generally before we can start diving into analysis of it. Let me move around that paper and see. So that's about it. So gameplay wise, what do you think, Squeaks?
I think it's crazy fun. One of my favorite things is trying to kill people a certain way so you can level up that specific skill.
Yeah.
Maybe like if I didn't care so much about driving, or if I did care about driving the most, I would just try to run them over instead.
Yeah.
And you get credit for that.
Trying to level it up.
It takes an extra second, but if you get that headshot, you get extra arms, orbs or whatever.
I love. Okay, so it's not so much character customization, but I love the fact that like the cars, the more you level up, your character will change.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Now,
you actually get a buffer.
Now we love to customize our own character, do whatever. But if this new one goes that route, maybe you could change like a face a little bit, whatever. Yeah. But goes the route that you're leveling up and you're looking way crazier looking. I like that. I thought it was awesome. It made you want to keep going for sure.
It's actual character progression. It's funny because like you take it to an MMORPG. Let's say World of Warcraft. Your level 1 Tauren should look like a calf compared to your level 120 that's raid bossing in BFA. You know what I'm saying? They should look way different because this guy's fought the Lich King and Deathwing and all this, and this guy's just from Mulgore. He hasn't done anything, you know? But most games are that way. But this guy, in Crackdown, you actually see that. You see a guy who's super scrawny compared to the last guy. Then on that last level, when you start leveling everything up, he can't fit in his shirt. He's like, mini Hulk. It's awesome.
Yeah, that was probably... I don't know if they were the first person to ever do that. Did they?
I just can't think of another example. It doesn't seem like they would be.
But it was amazing, something brand new to see. It's like
it's a bit of a design thing, less gameplay, but I see what it's part of leveling up. Yeah.
I think every time you would look buffer, I don't know if this is right. This is a long time playing it, long time ago. But it would be like a black screen, but then you kind of start your map over again or do whatever, and then you look different every time you appear.
I remember every time you level up one of your 5 skills, you do like this energy burst.
Okay, it's been a while.
Or maybe that's just your body, but I think it's any of the 5 skills. Yeah,
I don't know.
I think so. Yeah, you like roar out.
Yeah. Controls. Okay, just basic point and shoot, run around. That's super fast.
I felt like the driving controls could be improved.
Yeah.
Compared to Grand Theft Auto, I think Grand Theft Auto.
I feel like they just made it basic, but it was a lot of fun, so they just went with that. Fighting, was there really any fighting besides
you can kick and punch, but they're kind of wonky almost. Actually, it's definitely more meant for shooting.
Yeah.
Which actually, I would bring in shooting real quick. Shooting in this game is really cool because you could actually target a body part.
Yeah. It was simple, so you don't have to be really good at a shooter game, which was cool because I'm not great at shooter games, but you point and you kind of just toggle to the direction you want to aim for, and you can aim for his feet, knock him to the ground, or aim to his head and get a headshot if you wait a second.
It's quick targeting too. You get click the next guy, click the next guy.
Yeah. Maybe like the camera. It's basic.
It's basic, but it doesn't do anything. It's because why improve it? I think for that genre, it's basically what you'd see in all the other ones.
Yeah.
I don't think there's. I would say that maybe the driving could be improved personally.
Yeah.
The shooting though I think is fantastic. I think it's way better than anything else compared to it. Just because the way that you're able to kind of quickly change body parts and you're quickly able to target. I think I always thought Grand Theft Auto, as great of a game that is, and honestly I can play Grand Theft Auto 5 tonight, start a new game, and I imagine that cut. You guys don't, maybe you do. I can imagine every time when I start Grand Theft Auto, that first scene where it's like panning over that Santa Monica, because we've all been in Santa. Panning over that spot, and then you see where he's having therapy with his family. It's I've played that game so many times and I really enjoy it. You can always picture where it starts off. You're like, all right, I'm back in. I love that character. But it's funny because the shooting in that game, for such a game that's famous for bad violence, not that great.
No.
Driving's pretty good, but the shooting's not that great.
Mm.
And I think Crackdown definitely wins over in that.
It has that assistance. So, because where you like click the different body parts,
Yeah.
correct?
But even just that like locking
aiming.
on part, I think is almost more important than the body part.
Yeah.
I think the body part's a nice added
Mhm.
thing, but I think the locking on might be better.
Grand Theft Auto doesn't have that, where automatically like targets the person.
The old ones did, right?
Maybe
Like
it does, but
3.
it's definitely not as dramatic as it is in Crackdown.
Yeah,
I think 3 in like Vice City and before that locked on.
yeah.
But the new ones you aim yourself, right?
I would think so, because I don't. If you do, maybe it'll like initially put you on that target, but I don't think it like locks as hard as Crackdown.
No, you have to do it yourself.
Because where Crackdown is just like, as long as I got enough bullets and I'm moving my body enough, because now you're focusing more on like dodging incoming rockets and less about aiming. So it's kind of a different way of doing a shooter, and then you're just like quickly snapping to your new targets and shooting as much
As long as your character's facing your enemy and you keep your cursor in the general area of their body, then it'll stay locked on.
Yeah. And then camera was good, melee was okay, and the controls I think feel great because it's one of those things where you don't really. I feel like one of the really nice things. It's one of those things where you know how when you're running in a game, it's a third-person game. So when you're running in a game, you can like turn the camera and see what you look like.
Yeah.
It's one of the games because you're hulking out and because you're getting the green orbs to make yourself more powerful. You're jumping more and stuff like that. I feel like it's a game where I check myself out more. Does that make sense? I'll be doing a cool jump off a building and I'm like spinning the camera to see myself jumping off that building like this is tight. You know what I'm saying? Because you feel awesome in that game. You feel like I'm unstoppable.
That's smart at setting you with such high limits in the beginning of the game. They give you so much room that you can expand because, I mean, they don't want you to be able to jump over the whole city, but they level you slowly. And the whole time that's motivating you to keep playing. Yeah. It's like this little ego boost you get as your character to where you're like, oh, wow, now I don't have to climb the side of this building. I can jump to the top of this one. If I keep getting some more of these orbs, I can jump to the top of higher ones.
And I think that's the defining gameplay in this game over any other ones is the fact that, I mean, it's way more open, way looser based on what you want to do. But I think the defining thing is that you're leveling yourself up, each attribute of yourself individually, and it's truly affecting you. Yeah. And it's to the point where if you're like me, and I'm probably sure you guys did the same thing, the very first thing you're doing before you shot anybody is you went and found as many green orbs as you can. Yeah. So that you can jump high, right? Yeah. It gets to a point, and then you can eventually sprint too. It gets to a point where why would I get into a car? They're in my way.
And I think that's, at least for me, with a lot of like sandbox games like this, I just want to explore the map. I want to see what is all out there, what I could check out.
This one truly rewards you for doing that.
Yeah.
You get those orbs.
I think that's the best part of the game.
You'll sit there and you'll be like, in the carnival, whatever, trying to jump to the top of the Ferris wheel. Yeah. Good 20 minutes because there's that one green orb you can see up there. Yeah. Okay, so anything else you guys want to bring up in gameplay wise? How was the menu? You guys felt the menu was okay? It was okay.
It was simple, yeah. I liked it. I like it. You just mentioned you can spawn in any of the HUDs or any of the checkpoints, whatever it was. Right. That was super convenient. That was cool.
Yeah, and I liked gameplay or maybe a little bit design wise the way your attributes are always shown on the side, kind of colorful. It was actually pretty bright. The whole world was pretty bright, but that's a design thing. But it was easy to see when you're like killing things to see what's leveling up and how it's leveling up. I thought it was really well done. Let's see, anything else? I think that's about it. You guys ready to score this one?
Yeah.
All right, so out of 40, scored out of 40. How many points does it get in Squeaks?
Oh man, 35.
35? All right, you give it a 35. I'm personally giving it 38 because I think it's very fluid.
Yeah. Are
we just a couple because I think the camera on the driving could be slightly better.
Are we comparing it only to other games of the similar style?
Of the similar genre, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll do 38 too.
You do 38 as well.
Gotta leave a little buffer for.
Well, heck, you dinged it so hard on stories. So.
Well,
you guys got a 7, you jerk. Microsoft's a small indie company. They're trying hard.
Try hard, damn you.
All right. Next level. We're leveling up, guys. Woo, rats. Design. This is our level 3 design. It's pretty cartoony.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
It didn't have the best of graphics even for its time, right?
Well, it did, but I think it's funny because it didn't have the best graphics for what we, at the time, I think we're looking for graphics. Yeah. I think at the time we wanted as much realistic stuff as possible. Then we hit that Polar Express part, the Uncanny Valley, where it's like...
Everyone's stepping back a little bit.
Okay, we saw the edge of this and it's scary. And so what's funny is I think the graphics may not have been great for its time, but they aged better than many games of its time.
That's true, because they weren't striving for the peak of modern technology or definition. They dialed it back, like you're saying, made it a little more cartoony.
Similar to Borderlands or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the movie that's coming out this year. You know,
oh yeah, and with the graphics wise,
yeah,
I'm totally okay with the cartoon because those are some of my favorite games, and I love the art design on them.
Well, and it's kind of funny because you already feel like a superhero. Doesn't it remind you of like a comic book, like a '90s comic book?
Yeah, I guess it can.
Flat with the over stylized lines.
Especially like you were saying earlier, the super bright colors, like high contrast.
Everything's bright.
Yeah, it's like unnecessarily colorful, but that gets you more to that kind
of...
Full
world of gangs.
Yeah.
It's back to 3 different gangs fighting for a city, and you're like, oh, shiny orbs.
Exactly.
I think the music fit pretty good in the world. The music in the car, I think, fit better than... So, okay, was the music as funny as the music in Grand Theft Auto? No. I can cruise around listening to those radio stations.
Those talk shows?
Yeah. But I think the music fit for the world better than Grand Theft Auto. It was pretty basic, but very good. And then what else do I got here? Well, that's pretty much it for design. I thought the HUD looks really good. I know we're going back to that.
Yeah.
The guns were cool, but nothing spectacular. But I thought they were appropriate size. Sometimes guns look cartoonishly big. Yeah. I think they look good on your guy.
I can't remember much of cutscenes. Were the cutscenes any different than the live action play?
Well, no. What they did instead is they showed like the dossiers and the security cameras and stuff.
I remember some of that, like you're saying, the camera footage you mentioned earlier. Yeah. Yeah,
that was kind of cool because it kind of felt like the agency was checking in on stuff. You actually had like a Girl Friday or whatever, or Gal Friday, whatever that's called. Or the director basically was doing that to where he's like, this is what we found out on him, you know, and it kind of gives you the dossier. So you actually felt like you actually took a bite out of crime.
Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of design in it, but it kind of looked the same as the gameplay mostly, right?
Well, I mean, it was a good style. There was a little bit of a look to it. I'm trying to remember. I just went over this too. I don't know why I'm not remembering those scenes. But I think there was a little bit of an artistic design to it to actually make it feel like you were getting the inside scoop, like you were the agent of an agency.
Yeah, because there was that, like you logged into the
mainframe.
And that stuff comes up around the sides. It has all the details of who it is.
Yeah,
it's their portfolio, whatever.
Yeah.
Digital portfolio.
Thank you. That's a good term for it. No, that's perfect. What do you think, Squeaks?
For the
anything else left on design that we want to touch on?
I think character design was pretty awesome. Now, when you start off, it's plain. You get to pick out the certain looks of a character.
Yeah.
But that whole just progression of looking more badass and having super more armor.
And the car levels up too.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a pretty good design choice.
Yeah. Arms and you get buffer yourself, right?
Yeah. You can buffer yourself. What's nice because so the cars is a really good example. Your driving is better, which to me didn't feel like you noticed it much. But you do hit cars harder and they fly off harder. So it's one thing when it's like, oh, I can do that now. It's another thing when you get in a car and actually has like extra fenders and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, this thing's gonna smack something off the road now. You know. Another design choice that it's kind of funny how like things don't play by the same physics because you're how strong you are, but it just feels like nothing's by the same physics as what we see in today's world or Grand Theft Auto or something. Because again, you're stronger, but you just straight up pick up cars and throw them.
Yeah. Well, that's also kind of, you're the bio man, like you're a cyborg. Right?
Yeah. Universal soldier. Yeah. So when you're Dolph Lundgren in these cars, it's pretty cool.
Well, I like the character progression and then the artsy style of it. And some of the best games now have that same art, and I love it. So.
They're embracing the heck out of it. And then even I've seen it before in comics or shows that I don't think did too well. But the Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse.
It's crazy looking.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, it does.
Did you see I know this is off topic, but the new trailer that showed
I saw it.
Gwen Stacy looks good.
So you guys think it is better to not try to go for human, like realistic design and step back a little bit, do a little more cartoony?
It definitely ages better.
Are we talking movies or maybe games?
In games.
In games.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's like, what was that?
I guess it just depends the feel of a game. Well, I don't know because
what is the tone of the story and how it's telling its story.
You got the Telltale games that are cartoony, but I feel like that's a legit story. Like if I was playing Last of Us, which looks super realistic. Yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. I guess maybe the type
it just has to be done right. I'm trying to think of a version of it where it wasn't done right.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, and I just can't think of a version where it wasn't done right. I know there's been times where people have tried it and it hasn't been successful.
Yeah.
I can't think of a time where I thought it was bad.
Yeah, I don't know. If our audience can think of any, comment.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, shoot us a tweet or a comment on something.
We can post a couple pictures of it or something to explain what we're thinking of.
Yeah, so that's an interesting idea. I think it definitely ages well. I think that's the key to it.
Yeah.
And that might be something people want to look into and I think it might be cheaper to
Yeah, I'm sure
to do that. And right now you have a bunch of indie companies that are making some of our best video games.
Yeah. So though our resolution can be super sharp now,
Yeah.
you can spend the hundreds of thousands of manpower to make it high resolution.
Yeah, all that
Why do
rendering
that?
and everything, yeah.
Dial it back and focus on your story, make your storyline a little bit better, gameplay.
All right, so that's a good point. I think we're at the end of this level, guys. We're running past that last checkpoint. Let's get some scores up here. What's our high scores? What do you got for level 3?
What do we got out of what?
This is out of 40 as well.
Oh man, I'll do it 30.
You'll give it 30.
Yeah.
All right, that's funny. I know you're trying to read off my paper. You cheated.
Yeah,
Mine,
so
I'm 30 as well.
Yeah.
I'm telling the teacher.
I'm gonna do 35.
Doing 35. Doing very high on the design. What about it? Why do you think we went lower and you went higher?
I don't know. You guys suck. You guys
Yeah,
wrong.
It's funny. As we talked about it, I think
we all talked it up so much.
I wrote down 30, but as we talked about it, I kind of wanted to go a little higher. But I think it might have been that.
As we talked about it, I went higher because I was thinking real low. Like I remember looking back, like the design was kind of crappy. But as you mentioned that, it was lower than it needed to be for a reason, and that it aged well because of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, they were kind of going
what?
for more of a
I think I'm
cartoony.
bumping mine up. I think I'm gonna go. I'll go 33. I'll give it 3 more. I'm trying to find a reason why it's not 40. Well, I mean, it's I don't mean
probably
that.
because it's just graphics overall.
Especially
I mean,
like Squeaks was saying
360
how
there's still awesome games that had graphics.
You know what's funny that I remember, and I think there's got to be an achievement for it. I'm gonna bump it to 35 now. I'm saying this.
Think of Kong. Think of King Kong when that first came out for the 360. That thing was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Look wise.
You know what I'm
Kong,
thinking of
just King
though
Kong.
is one thing about this game is when you, especially when you get to the Shaigen district. But I remember very when you see the hub, and you're already feeling strong and stuff like that, and the city is sprawling, but there's a part of you that's like, I'm gonna climb to the top of that son of a bitch. You know what I'm talking about? When you see that big hub in the middle, you're like, I can do that.
And the game does a good job at making you think that you can do that. Like, because it's constantly boosting you up, motivating you with each little level.
There's one part where you have to kill a guy that's in a harbor, and you're seeing the cranes, and you're like, there it is. I'm getting on them cranes, I'm dropping bombs.
Like, that's my tool. That's what I'm going to get. That's how I'm going to get there.
That's part of the design, because then you're looking at it, and you're like,
I don't know, man.
these are my opportunities.
Yes.
So, just not to throw it way far back, but like when we're talking about portals and you look up at the moon, portals too.
Boy, portals.
Yeah, like that you just put that thing in that place that as a player,
real quick, have you played Portals 2?
Never played either one.
Oh my
You've
god.
never played either Portals?
I feel so bad for you.
That has to be our next
Breaks
level.
my
I know we're talking
heart.
about Assassin's Creed. It has to be our next level.
Right.
I own Portals 2. I've never played it before. Will you join us?
I'll play it twice before you guys even get it.
Okay, I'll try to play it.
You heard it now. Level up. Next level up is going to be on Portals 2.
If you haven't played Crackdown or Portals, play Portals first.
One
it is
campaign,
amazing.
Single player was one campaign. 2 players, totally different campaign.
Yeah.
Co-op is a whole different campaign.
Yeah.
So we'll have to do both.
It's a strategy game. It's a puzzle game, but it's such a good game.
I love number 1. I never got around to number 2. You played number 2 and you were explaining it to me. I was listening to another podcast where they were talking about it.
They make it freaking tricky. It's still the same kind of puzzles more or less, but it changes. There's different dynamics.
Are you familiar with the gameplay for that one? I don't want to get too far into that.
Shoot a gun and open up some portals.
Okay, we're gonna have to talk.
That's like chess is just moving pieces.
Yeah, chess is just moving places and pieces.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was our design. All right, guys, we're moving to that final level. Oh snap! Here comes the big Bowser boss. Can we jump over? How are we gonna? I have sound effects.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good.
Those are free ones.
I like to talk though, so I know where to put the sound effects. That's why I'm spitballing sound effects.
You cut out your.
Now I'll put it in the. I'll put it right there. I'm not cutting any of this, so all the people hear it.
Oh shit.
Final level, guys. All right. General consensus of the game. Squeaks, fire away.
A blast. No matter what, like the little stuff, like we talked about, okay, graphics, or this could have been improved, or this or that, whatever. It's so much fun. You don't even care about that after a while. Yeah.
So that's your pros. It's honestly just a lot of fun. What would be a con for it?
Maybe some team stuff instead of being solo all the time.
It does have co-op mode.
Does it?
Yeah, you can play with 2 people.
Oh, I never played 2 people. Okay. Well, let me rephrase it. More like Call of Duty, where you're in like an army, and all those people around you are dying. It'd be kind of cool to see some other agents just kind of there for looks.
Yeah, you do see peacekeepers, and there are times where you have to save the peacekeepers, but they feel very innocent.
Yeah, I want to see like other agents like you.
Yeah,
like next to me. You know, that's
that'd
what
be
I
cool
like.
for Crackdown 3 if you're leading the agency or
yeah,
you're
exactly.
leading a squad.
That'd be neat, and not like That's why sometimes Halo gets a little boring for me because it's just you by yourself doing your own thing. I like to see a team thing, even if all your team's just there to die. You know, it's still cool to make it feel like you're in this group.
Yeah.
So that's my con instead of just being one crazy person superhero. But other than that, man, it's a hell of a game. Super fun.
Yeah. All right. So my conclusion is basically that I thought it was a very fun gameplay. It had a really neat design. One that I'll always remember. It's super identifiable. You know it fits for who you are. You are a superhero in a superhero world, just carrying all the. You're so season 1 of Daredevil. It doesn't have much story, but that's how the gameplay leans into that. And that's something it's not like it's lacking. It's not like it's lacking story. It's because it's not needed. You're making the story. You are the story. I wish your character had more depth to him, but again, that's part of it. Like it's more of an avatar of you than most games are. You're not playing as Michael from Grand Theft Auto. You're the guy. I'm Frank in Crackdown, so that's one thing. You're Agent. Let's just call you Agent. John, what's your conclusion on all this?
Same as you guys. It was an awesome game. It was a lot of fun. Like you're saying, it didn't have much story, but I didn't think about it in that way that it didn't really need much story because you make it. So I do like thinking about that. I like that it was an open world sandbox kind of game. You can just jump around and do whatever you want. And you didn't have there was like optional side quests or whatever, but you pretty much just pick which of the 5 skills you want to level up at the time or level them all at the same time. But just pretty much go out there, stop the mobs and level up and see yourself get buff and your cars upgrade, stuff like that. And
get swole.
Yeah, and then you get all pumped up. You're like, oh damn, dude, that's hella cool. Now I can drive hella fast, or now I can, shoot guys in the head faster, or whatever. Level everything up, and then it motivates you to keep going. So they did a good job. I'm sure other games have done that same. I'm sure lots of games have that same style of motivation in the game, but I think they did a good job, and with the design and animation and stuff to make it look real clean and bright colors and exciting.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's an awesome game. So let's do our overalls. We got our final score, guys. We're at the end. Let's see what the scoreboard says. We're doing math, so give me a second. You guys talk while I do math. So John, you gave it a 7 for story.
Portals, huh?
Oh yeah.
Is it even worth it?
Oh, dude, I can't believe you haven't played Portals yet. So the original.
I don't know
Portals,
why I just never.
It was kind of hidden. The first, at least when I first saw Portals,
Orange
yeah, it was Orange Box. So it was kind of a freebie game they threw in with.
Wasn't Orange Box made a Team Fortress 2 or something?
Yeah, there was Team Fortress 2.
Is that what it is? Okay, I remember that back in the days.
But what was I can't remember what the original game was that it came with.
It was in Half-Life 2.
Half-Life. So I still never played that. I bought Orange Box only for Portals just because it looked kind of cool.
People are not even listening to us now because we just said that because people worship that game in our way.
Half-Life?
Oh
yeah, they are dying for a third one. Right?
Yeah. So maybe after Portals.
I played a little bit of it, but I went back to Portals right now.
Okay.
I bought Orange Box for Half-Life, but I ended up playing Portals. So all right, we have our scores in. The math machine did it. Good job, mathematicians. Jonathan, you gave it a 7 for story, 38 for gameplay, 35 for design. Your total score is 80 out of 100. That's 80 agility orbs out of 100 agility orbs. We need something. We had keyblades for our first one. This is agility orbs, I think. Squeaks, you did 10 for story, 35 for gameplay, and you went with a 30 for design because you have no imagination. That is 75 agility orbs. I gave it 10 for story, 38 for gameplay, and I bumped up to that 35 agility orbs for design. I remember before. 83, I gave it an 83, which is a good solid B. I wish I did that good in high school. I wouldn't be doing podcasts now. Yeah. All right. So does this break, I'll start with you, Squeaks, does this break your top 5 of its genre?
What is it? Just like...
So
what would this genre be? Just
I would say open
map
world, third-person shooter sandbox.
Damn, that's specific to
so I'm gonna
just
throw
list one game.
Grand Theft Autos, Red Dead Redemption, Saints Row, Mercenaries. I'll say Far Cry in there, although it's first person. But that Just Cause, that kind of thing, where it's that open world, go do your thing.
Yeah, if you do it that specific of a genre, I'd say it would.
It's top 5, really.
Yeah, I would say. Well.
It's not my top 5.
No.
Because the Grand Theft Autos have such... It's because of the story. Grand Theft Autos has such a good story. Mercenaries, I think, has a better story, and you see your impact on the world better than you do in this one. And they need to make it into Mercenaries. How's that not a thing?
I think the second one wasn't different enough from the first one, is why it didn't explode.
No, and it had a pretty controversial end on... You could actually get Americans killed, which was hard for the American audience to play.
Yeah. But it's doing great in Russia right now, Brent. I'm just kidding.
No, it was the Americans versus Chinese in that game.
Oh, okay.
But anyways.
Oh, the Russian one just came out though, right? That side scroll. Did you see that? It's free on Xbox. Check it out.
Oh, I'll check it out. So for me, it doesn't break my top 5 just because Red Dead Redemption's story is insane.
Oh yeah.
Saints Row even had a good story. I really like Saints Row's story.
Yeah, I like the first 3.
The characters are pretty funny. I mean, at least that. Story alone, it doesn't break it. It's a super fun game though. Yeah. I'll give you that, but it's just not my top 5. John, what do you think? Top 5?
I'd say it'd be in my top 5 just because I never played Saints Row, even though you pressured me so many times to play it.
So many times.
Yeah. I'm like, I already got my games. Mercenaries and Crackdown, those are my 2 favorite. And, I mean, there's all the Grand Theft Autos.
Yeah.
If you count up the Grand Theft Autos, and they might overwhelm it, but...
Damn.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I had a thought in my head. Go ahead.
But yeah, I think I could put it in my top 5.
All right.
Especially if we narrow it down to of its time, then for sure.
Oh yeah, we definitely can't do that.
Yeah.
It has to be able to. I mean, it surpasses some of the newer stuff that comes. I think it's better than Far Cry 4.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just because it's a lot of fun than Far Cry 4.
Yeah.
At a point, Far Cry becomes tedious.
But now, this is hard for me. But can you go back and play Crackdown just the same as when you first did?
I just played Crackdown last year.
Yeah.
And I played a little bit last week just to kind of get a feel for like the controls again. Yeah. But I played a full game last year.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. It is so much fun.
Okay.
It's still so good.
Might have to pull it out again.
And that's why I remember very well, like again, when I just saw it again, I was like, those graphics are holding up. Yeah. And just because they're bad graphics, don't get me wrong. It's the style though. They are timeless, almost a little bit timeless. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of funny because like the Mario Brothers on the NES, those are timeless because of their 8-bit. And they're just side-scroller 8-bit. People are remaking that kind of stuff now with new stories and stuff. So, what do we see? Just because we're doing this before E3, we have Crackdown 3. We're gonna get a ton of news on Crackdown 3. What do you guys want to see on Crackdown 3?
Some more AI character development. Maybe other people in your agency that are there to aid or hand you missions or helping them out. Maybe if like, hey, we got to go kill this gang or whatever, and they're in a certain building or whatever, and then you go with a couple people and you start going nuts on it.
Side quests and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or
maybe some questing.
That actually be pretty nice. Some side missions. They had a few side things like racing and stuff like that. And,
little small stuff though.
But so is Grand Theft Auto that has like, oh, here's a racetrack, but I don't really care about that stuff.
I always hate racing games and open world stuff like that. The racing part's never good because it's not a racing game, so it's not perfect.
Yeah.
So I always hate that. Personally, I would love to add, and I know it's kind of just because it's popular right now, a battle royale. So it would drop you and let's say 20 agents in the middle of a city and just kill each other.
That would be so good because, like we were talking about through the whole thing, you have to level up. So you have to pick: am I going to level up so that I can get the biggest car so I can just plow through everybody? Am I going to go straight for jumping so I can get to high point and snipe? Am I going to just do firearms so I can just be one shot one in the head?
That's too with the art, whatever that they're advertising. I feel like it's way too Fortnite.
Or is Fortnite 2 Crackdown?
Ooh.
Who's
first?
Bam. But I would like to see like a good PvP, and I don't normally like PvP in shooters because I'm not great at them. But this one, I think it'd be a lot of fun, especially Battle Royale, where you have the whole city to play around with, and you're just leaping around. I think they should start you off with 50 out of 100 on all your skills, and then you can like boost whatever last bit you want, you know.
And I think, like Sweets was saying, they should have, even though you are in a battle royale and you have to get to a certain area, you know, you're trying to survive, there should also be some story to it too, like some side focus, not just to survive, but you have to, you know, get to certain...
Help the city maybe or something.
Yeah.
Well, the story's changed.
Two different things, right? Campaign and battle royale.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. There should be campaign too.
Would it be too crazy to have different races of members in your agency, like going
different classes.
No, I'm thinking races. Like go as far as the aliens and stuff. Think of like a Green Lantern Corps.
Oh, I see. What you're saying.
Yeah, that's a whole other game. That's a whole other game.
Kind of neat, though.
We're talking about space, though.
Switch it up, though. Why not?
You mean so like
we're talking about a guy that hops over buildings.
I know. You're talking about basically Crackdown, or not Crackdown. Saints Row 3 or whatever, 4, whatever it is, where in the alien ship, and they got you.
Yeah,
in the thing.
But
But
you mean
you're
like
gonna
games
make it
like
better
League of
than
Legends, where you
garbage.
pick which character that has which set of skills that you want to be, right?
Ooh,
Overwatch. You want
what if you
Overwatch.
can? So you don't customize your character, but you pick like here's an alien race, here's a human race, here's this race, and you
It's
just go
something
from there and get
different.
them
At least.
hell
I'll
buff.
give you that.
Yeah.
All right, Jello, anything you want to add to this game for Crackdown 3?
No, I like how you're saying make it a what'd you call it?
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. Yeah.
It's kind of very popular now with
Yeah.
that formats in the PUBGs.
From PUBG. I think that'd be awesome. I think they should definitely, if they don't do that, they got to add a lot more to the storyline.
Yeah.
Make a more in-depth campaign, character development, all that good stuff. But something just online, something where we can all play together, not just
4-player
two-person
co-op
campaign.
would be nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
There was a 2-player co-op. I remember not ever doing it though.
Mm.
But nowadays, with as connected as we all are, it'd be a lot easier to do.
and though the map is big nowadays, I'm sure we can just break that wide open and go 10 times the size of that map.
Yeah.
There has to be multiplayer for that now. Now that we're
Oh,
talking about
I
it.
can't imagine there not. It'll probably be Game Pass and it'll probably be Play Anywhere.
So we
Yeah.
all gonna buy this game and review it after it comes out.
Let's do that.
All right.
And so, just a reminder, it got pushed back to 2019. That just
Yeah.
got announced like 2 days ago.
So we'll have to re-release this podcast again.
I'm
right
gonna
before we-
release this. I'll probably release this podcast on Saturday
Mhm.
because the E3 conference with Microsoft's on Sunday.
Mhm.
We have E3 news coming out today on Friday when we're recording this, so it'll be a hot weekend.
Nice.
Keep an eye on us, guys. All right, well that's it, and I hope you guys enjoyed. You want to say goodbye, Squeak?
Yeah, if you have anything to add, hit us up on Twitter, the Top 5 Cast, and just give us a shout out if anything.
What are we doing next?
We are doing Portals because I'm forced to.
Yeah,
I'm forced to do Portals
especially.
2. I'm forced
Yeah.
to do Portals
You probably
2.
should play Portals 1 and 2
Yeah.
together. Let's do that.
One gives you the basics, and then 2 is just an evolution of it. It's awesome.
It's important you understand. Cake is a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cake is a
Okay.
lie.
All right, guys. Don't believe the cake. See you guys later.
Thanks for listening to Level Up, a show on the Top 5 Network. If you have any suggestions on what games we should review next, then you can join us on Twitter at the Top 5 Cast and use hashtag Level Up. Thanks again for listening.